Okay guys, welcome to my channel. I'm doing a different kind of video today, showing you guys how I created my pink frosted matte envelopes. I created the design in Canva, so if you want that aspect of how I did it, I'll have to do it separate. So leave a comment down below if you're interested in that. So of course you're going to need a paper cutter. Doesn't matter the brand or anything like that. I prefer the Recollections one because I just like how well it measures my envelopes. I like them to be very exact. I printed on Vellum and on Cardstock because I was trying to decide which one I like the best. So for the Vellum, I'm going to be using the matte laminating pouches. So if that's the look you're going for, you'll need that. But for the cardstock, I'm using just regular 5 ml laminating pouches. The Vellum, the matte ones are 5 ml as well. I've done matte on cardstock and it works out fine too. And of course you need a laminator. For these particular envelopes, you will not use a silhouette or a Cricut. So that's what makes them a little bit more economical to create. So I'm just arranging my stuff out the way. I'm going to start off cutting out my Vellum envelopes. I prefer to cut my Vellum by hand because it is such a delicate piece of paper. And sometimes it'll get kind of caught in the cutter or it'll tear. But for this design, I like to use lines. Sometimes I'll turn down the transparency so they're very faint. Just because I like my envelopes to be exact. I don't want to guess where to cut them and stuff like that. So I'm just cutting these out right on the line there so that it doesn't show or that I get as much of it off as possible. If you wanted to see the lines on your envelopes, which some of mine I do that way as well, you would just cut right on the outside of the lines and therefore you'll see your lines. So I just cut them out by hand just because it's just easier for me. And so when you see people selling envelopes, things like this takes time. And so that's why you have to charge a little bit more money and why the processing time takes as long as it does. Because, I mean, literally you're doing every aspect of it by hand. All right. Now for my pouches, I don't mind using my cutter. The first thing I do is I keep the seam side intact, but at the bottom I don't need that little curvy edge, and so I cut it off just to make a straight edge. All right, and then I start cutting my pouches the same length and width as my envelopes that I just cut out. So again, for these, we're looking at, for this one is 3.25. That's the tall end. And then I'll cut each piece off 3.25. You should be able to get 3 strips out of one pouch. But I think I have them maybe stacked a little bit. So I'm just stacking them together, make one cut. I have to use my extension on my cutter to get to 6.25. So I just take my paper, make sure they're even, line them up to 6.5, and then make one cut, and I'll have 3, enough for 3 envelopes. All right, for the Vellum, you need both sides of the pouch. All right, so what you're going to do is you just take the 2 pieces of your laminating pouches that you cut, right? And then you have an outside piece. That's where you're going to put your envelopes. All right, so you take one front and back, and then I saw some dirt on my hand, I don't know, and then you turn them onto each other. So you kind of like flip them backwards to create a pouch. The insides are sticky, so you want to move those to the outside. and that's what's going to make your envelope open. And then you just lay your vellum right on top. It's really hard with the matte because the regular laminating pouches, you can see one side is shiny and one side is dull, but with the matte, both sides are dull. So you just have to keep up with it. The more powdery side, to me, is the sticky side. So you don't want those to touch or your envelope won't open. All right. And then lay your envelope with your pouch right on top. I like to keep my envelopes in the middle and face the bottoms to the outside where I'll have extra room to punch holes, because they seem more steady and stable when they're closer to the middle, as opposed to being close to the outside. They tend to slip and slide too much, and then I get frustrated. So this keeps them kind of tight to the middle so that they don't slide too much. You still got to hold it though. All right. So then I'm just going to bring up my laminator, which is already hot. It's set to 5 mLs because that's the pouches that I'm using, 5 mLs. So I need my laminator to get hot enough to seal 5 ml pouches. So now I'm just guiding it through my laminator. I try to hold on to it, especially till that bottom one goes through. That way I know it's not going to slide anymore. And then I just hold both sides because I don't want my pouch, I don't want it to curve. Memphis is all in the way. Excuse him, I had to move him. And I let it go through once straight up, and then I take it and put it through again upside down. Don't put your vellum through the laminator too much, because then you'll notice it'll start to wrinkle. So you have to really be mindful of that. What I've found with the matte laminating pouches is that they seal very, very well. You rarely see that big bubble around the paper, which is where your seal is broken. The matte, to me, seals perfectly. So now I just kind of smooth it out. It's hot, that's why I use my sleeve. But I just kind of smooth it out so it'll cool down super flat. At this point, you could actually use a big heavy book or something to sit on top. But to me, it holds heat when I use a book. So I just use my sleeve and just rub over it till it starts to cool down. And then I get my cutter back out. And so that bottom one, I start off with the opening side. And I just get it lined up to my cutter as close as possible so that my envelope will open. All right. And then the other sides, there's a little bit of a lip on this cutter that I use to measure my other 3 sides. And it makes my envelopes very, very exact. And they're all the same size because I use that same little lip. And I'm going to show it to you at some point in this video, the little lip that I'm talking about. And then at the bottom, to make room for my holes, I just take the bottom of my envelope to that first line. And that gives me the perfect amount of space to punch my holes at the bottom. All right, so then I just take my corner cutter and curve my sides. That's a pet peeve of mine. I always curve my sides, and you can see my envelope opens up just fine at the top. For me, I just look at the top on each ends to make sure that it's centered, and I just eyeball it, honestly, and they normally always come out good. Then I just run it through the laminator one last time to make sure. But look at your envelopes. If you don't have a big space or something there, I would just leave it alone, because the more you laminate it, like I said, the more you put it through, it's going to cause your vellum to wrinkle. So if you want really flat, smooth looking vellum envelopes, then you can't put them through the laminator too much. All right, so then I'm going to cut my other 2 envelopes and they're facing each other. The open ends are facing each other. So I just line them up once again and right to the top of my envelope so that it will open. And then I use my little lip right there for the sides. And the other side, since I used the seam, I don't need to cut it. And then that first line is for the bottom, so I'll have room for hole punching. So basically, I'm just going to go through the other two envelopes, cutting them down, open at the top, then hole punching them and running them through one more time through my laminator. Again, you'll see me do my third envelope, the top, right up to the cut line. Then the sides, I use the little lip to give me space on the sides. And then, of course, the bottom, again, I go to that very first line. It's like a 1/2 inch of extra lamination in order to make room for punching the holes. Always cut your corners, guys. Really, that is big for me. So there's my last one going in, and you can see now that this one is cool. I just used a prop bill just to kind of show how it looks. I think it's super beautiful. You can see through the front, through the design, and through the back, and I just love them. I was torn at first on whether or not I would like the Vellum or the Cardstock, but once I made the pink frosted ones, I was in love. I was hooked at that point. And these, I'm just showing you the different options you have. This is a pack of different color vellum that you can get from Amazon, and I think it costs $12. And those are the options that you can have to create your envelopes. It's a darker green, a lighter green, like a sky blue, a gold, just some really pretty colors. Those are your options if you order that pack of paper. Okay, now we're going to move on to the cardstock option, and this paper is a lot more sturdy and thick, so I am fine with using my cutter to cut these out. But if you don't have it, hey, just use your scissors. There's ways to measure so that you can do exact cuts with your scissors as well. So if you don't have a cutter, honestly, you don't have to run out and buy one. You could do the same thing with scissors. It can be done. So I'm just going to cut my envelopes out. Again, these are the same size, 6.5 by 3.25. I'm going to link, I'm going to put in my description box the measurements for you guys. I'll even add in an A7 measurement that I use. So just in case if you want to make your envelopes smaller. And then I'm going to link the vellum paper. I'll link the matte laminating pouches. And I think everybody pretty much knows how to get the regular laminating pouches, but I'll also link that just in case. And I'll even link my laminator because I like that one that I have a lot. They have a cheaper version, which is that Scotch one that you can buy kind of at Walmart. I think it's at Walmart. And it costs around $20-25. It works fine, but it doesn't work fine for long. So it's up to you, depending on your budget. If you want to just get it and you're just going to use it for yourself, it will last. But if your plan is to start creating envelopes and selling them, you might want to invest a little bit more money in your laminator because they will kind of like go bad on you and go bad fast if you don't get a good quality one. So here I'm just kind of going over the envelopes, trimming off some of the excess if I didn't get close enough, because once you're just trying to get a little bit off, it's not good to use your cutter because it'll just tear your paper. So if there's any like rough edges, sometimes when your blade gets a little bit dull, you'll have a little bit of like a frayed edge on the side. So I just go around and cut that type of stuff off. in order to give myself a smooth edge as possible. And that's what I'm doing right there. Okay, so now we have our 3 envelopes ready. Let me say this. If you want a solid back, you would just cut 3 pieces of plain cardstock the same size, and that will be the back. I like a clear back, and so that's why I only have the front of the envelope. Again, I just cut off the rounded edge at the bottom of my laminating pouch, and then I'm going to send it the other way so that I can measure my 3.25 for each one. And again, you'll get 3 pieces out of each sheet. So I'm just lining it up to make sure it's exact and cutting my 3 pieces. I'm very particular about my cuts because I want them to be exact. So then I pull out my extender so that I could measure my 6.5 inches for the width. And then we will get to the next step, which making a clear back, it's a little different. Alright, so I'm going to get my whole pouch here. That's what my envelopes are going to go into. So then I just flip them around like we did the previous ones and sit my cardstock right on top. Just make sure that it's very, very, very even. Okay, I like mine to be exact. The same way I put my open end toward the inside all the time. My open end is always toward the inside, and my hole punch ends are to the outside. Okay, so make sure your bottoms are facing the outside of your pouch and your open ends are facing the inside. And I just sometimes have to go back in there and straighten it out a smidgen because I like it to be exact. And then even my one at the bottom, I'm going to flip my pouch around so that the sticky side is facing out. And then I put my open end toward the inside and my hole punch side toward the outside. All right. And you will notice that it will make it a lot easier with your putting it through your laminator, and they don't slide as much. So the same process for this one. When I'm sending it through, I go straight up the first time, and then once it goes one pass, then you'll see I'm going to flip it over. It's just, to me, seals it on both sides, and then I just put it back through one more pass with it upside down. Cardstock is more forgiving, so normally it doesn't wrinkle or anything. It's very easy to work with, and the paper is cheap. So if that's what your budget calls for, then by all means you can still make beautiful envelopes. And then I'm just wiping them and cooling them down a little bit before I grab my cutter. Okay, so now I'm just going to quickly go through same process. My open end, I put it right up to the cut line. My sides, I use the little lip. And then the bottoms, I give a 1/2 inch extra to make room for hole punching. And just line them up and throw them through the laminator one more time. And I'm just repeating the process until I get all my envelopes cut out and ready. And it's honestly just that simple, guys. I'm showing you how they each open up. They have a clear back, and then putting them through. The key is that you try to be as exact as possible, especially if you're going to be selling these to people. You want to really be precise with all your measurements and make sure everything is centered and beautiful. If you're using the shiny laminating pouches, Then always wipe your envelopes down with like a microfiber towel so there's no fingerprints or anything like that on there. So now I'm just showing you the two that I created, and I was trying to decide which one I like the best, and I was really torn, but it's something about the frosted pink that just had me in a chokehold. And so I was like, okay, well, in order to decide, let me grab my prop money to see what the cardstock one looks like. And it was beautiful, don't get me wrong, very nice. Those are the envelopes I usually have. So then I grabbed an actual binder to make sure that they fit, and just to see, you know, I kept on picking up the pink frosted one, as you can see. And they're very sturdy. I wish I could probably turn up the sound, but they're very high quality, well made, very sturdy, will last a long time. Okay, so here I decided to get out a binder so that you guys can see how well they fit, how the holes are just perfect, that they slide in no problem into a A6 binder. You can flip through them very easily. They're not flimsy at all. They're very sturdy and well made, as you can see. I use 5 ml pouches only, and that's what gives me a very sturdy envelope. The cardstock ones with the clear back, the back is crystal clear, as you can see. There's no cloudiness or anything like that. And then you can see how exact my measurements are, where every single envelope is exactly the same. All right, if you stack them up, the tops, they're even. That's what makes professional looking envelopes. It's going to make your customers come back for more, is the quality of your envelope. All right, so I'm going to stick with my pink frosted vellum because those are gorgeous to me. And that's what I'm going to put in my binder. Okay, guys, and as a bonus, I'm going to show you PeekABoo style. So basically, it's the same cutout, except on my design space. If you guys want to know how I design things in Canva, let me know. I'll do a separate tutorial for that. But I just took my regular envelope. I turned my lettering sideways because that's how I want it today. And then I cut out the PeekABoo. I just put a line across the envelope in Canva and then duplicated it so that every single one is the same. All right, so you can see these 3 that I'm about to do. Look at that, because I want them to be exact. Okay, so same concept. You take your matte lamination pouch that your piece that you made for the inside, they're hard, and then you flip it on itself. All right, so the powdery side is the outside, and you just line up your envelope right on top. All right, so it goes between the sticky side and the pouch. All right, and then this is a regular 5 ml pouch. All right, hold tight so it doesn't slip. Then I'm gonna put this one this way because I always put my hole punches to the outside. Okay, so this will be my hole punch side. So for this one, I'm gonna flip my soap to make the pocket. All right. For the matte, it's hard to see, but there's like a dull side and a not so dull side. That's all the best way I can explain it. All right, so here we go with the next one. Make sure it's lined up just right. No overlapping, corner to corner. Now this one I'm gonna turn this way because I want my hole punch to be on the outside. That's just my preference because I prefer my envelopes to be tight in here so they don't move that much. All right, and then the last one, you just flip it. All right, line everything up. Make sure it's not overlapping, guys. You want perfection, okay? No overlapping. And then this one, I put my hole punch side to the bottom. All right. To me, when I have my envelopes more toward the middle, they have a tendency to not slide so much. So the seam is helping to hold the top two, and then you just hold the bottom two so that it doesn't slide. If it slides ever so slightly, I might open it up and adjust it a little bit, but not too much, because then it'll go far the other way. My laminator always cuts off. Let me move it down so you guys can see. Let's see. Alright. And it's so beautiful, guys, once it's laminated. Oh my God. I can't wait for you all to see it as an envelope though. Alright. I mean, it's something about the lamination that just makes the design just pop. And I have a brown binder, so when I designed them, I put little hints of brown in certain ones because I'm alternating. You guys will see. I'm gonna show you. And then flip it. Just trying to create a good seal. One thing I like about matte, it seals very, very well. You don't get a whole lot of air bubble around like you do with the regular one. All right, and you just let this one come through. And then I have 2 more pages that have cooled already, so I'm gonna let you guys watch me get them ready for my binder. So my hole punch. And this hole punch. Let's move this out the way. And then I cool mine down like this. And I kind of focus on the outsides just to make sure that they get sealed really, 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 really well. All right. And then once it's kind of cool, you see how solid they are? All right, so here's my first one that I did. So let me get my cutter. All right, let me move this out a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's what I was supposed to be doing. All right, so these I made. So we just line it up. This is gonna be the top, so I want it to be right on the cut line. All right, the whole thing is open, okay? And then I just come and do my edges, and I use that rim because I want all my edges exactly the same. All right, this is my rim right here. That's why I use the same cutter so I can have the same landmarks on all my envelopes. And then for my hole punch end, I go to this first line, the bottom of my envelope. All right, make sure it's straight. All right, look at that perfect envelope. Cut off, I always round my edges, just makes it look good. And you ain't gotta worry about getting a paper cut or anything like that. This work, and then you punch them wrong. All right, so here we go for the A6. I just measure, and that's about right. beautiful. Beautiful. Let me get some money. Hold on. It's not real, but this is how it's gonna go in my binder, just like this. Look at that. And then when I'm on camera, I'll fill them like this from the side. There's your back, the vellum back, like that. This one, this is the open side. So we just line it up in here to the open. And, all right, there's my opening. And I line up to my seam so I can get an edge everywhere else. This what makes my envelopes, the size is just so precise. Okay, this one is already there. I just maybe trim a little bit, but it wasn't nothing there. I always trim it just to make sure. And line that up. All right, and then corners. Then hole punch. And I just line it up from the edges to make them even. I mean, look how beautiful, guys. And I mean, these are sturdy, okay? And then at the end, I'm gonna run them probably, I don't know, sometimes with vellum, I don't like to run them through the laminator too much because that's what makes them start to wrinkle. So be careful with that. They seal really well. That's why I like the matte. The matte, to me, seals a lot better. All right, and then this one, we got my Capricorn. This is my birthday envelope. All right, and then here, this edge is already good because this is my seam edge, so I don't have to worry about that one opening because that was already a seam. That's why I always utilize my seams. All right, and then this one, we go to that same edge, cut that off, and then make room for our hole punch here and there. And then corners. Corners, and then our hole punch. And let's measure it here. All right, and that's that. Let's see, P.O. Box. I want you all to see how exact, hold on. All right, I got a little crud here, but this is how exact my envelopes are. Beautiful. I mean, beautiful. And that's how you make them, y'all.